biographical part of her speech was spent reshaping standard information in applause lines, right? It's basic stuff. Everybody's like, oh!
She wants to be our president and commander-in-chief, and yet at no time has she demonstrated that she has any capability or that she is fit to serve in that position. In fact, she would be quite dangerous in that position.
The prior quarter from the year before, they had a charge of $1.3 billion, an accounting change which wiped out profits. Then they earned what they normally... Let me finish now. They earned...
You didn't let me finish. Look at the data. Come on.
Democrats are sick, says Ian Miles Chung. This one came over from Kristen Hawkins. Says that at the Hotties for Harris DNC event, there was a Plan B gumball machine, abortion access skee ball, sex-themed walls, and more weird stuff because they're obsessed with abortion and degeneracy, which is a fair statement. It's true. They're obsessed with it. That's basically all this entire DNC was about. And war. I mean, holy crap. Last night there was so much war. Kamala was like, yeah, we want never-ending conflict in Ukraine because we're going to just fight them to the tilt. Russia's not going to lose that war, right? Obviously, it's on their border. So that's not evident. Otherwise, this will just continue to escalate. So they got that going. Then the Democrats salivating when she was sprinkling in a little Israel love and then kind of watering that down with a little Gaza love, Palestine love. And we're, what the heck is this about? Never ending. And she even brought up Iran for crying out loud during that speech. She's like, hey, defense contractors, just letting y'all know. So between war and abortion, it's like the party of death. They just love death. Democrats cheering, jerking their signs up and down, really thrilled with themselves at their event last night. Here is what this sounds like from Taylor Lorenz, the same woman who lied about her Instagram posts.
Taylor's filling us in on some of the DNC highlights since we haven't been able to get into the convention. And what did you get as a party favor?
So, I was at the Hotties for Harris party last night, which was a party a bunch of people went to, and it was like they had like all of these different sort of things. They had like mini golf where like you go mini golf through like a ring of tampons and stuff. And then I went through, then there was like a gumball machine, and I was like, oh, let me turn the gumball machine and maybe it's like a ring or something. And it was Plan B.
Yeah, so get pregnant.
It's a Plan B pill.
Weird
Taylor?
people. Weird, strange stuff. Just handing out abortions. Go get pregnant, have an abortion, become a good Democrat. You'll get like a little badge, kind of like, I was going to say Girl Scouts, but I don't think those exist anymore. Can you do that anymore? Or Boy Scouts, or like those little badges? Now it's like They Scouts or something. I don't know. So whatever. What a great vision for the country. Just, it's all about uteruses and genitals, and sometimes removing the genitals because they don't want them in there. So this was a nice opinion piece over from Derek Hunter at The Hill. He said, all right, look, Kamala had her moment, right? We gave her a fair shake, gave her a fair shot. She came out. The pantsuit is truly empty, all right? Says, look, it was terrible last night, all right? When Joe picked her a long time ago, he did so because she could, quote, assume office on day one. Yeah, but not true. More than 30 days after becoming the nominee, and we've been so enjoying this ticking clock, counting up one after another, day after day. 31 days, Kamala. 32 days, Kamala. Where you been? It's 35 days. Every day it gets worse. You just gotta get it out of the way, man, this stuff. Just get it out of the way. Eat that frog. More than 30 days after becoming the presumptive nominee, Harris still does not seem to be ready to be the Democrat Party's nominee, let alone the president, obviously. She's an empty pantsuit, basking in the glow of a positive, sycophantic, hysterical, self-indulgent media, and she's completely unburdened by accountability. Boom. And her acceptance speech confirmed that. All right, Harris has now officially accepted the nomination. Now, her nomination was historic, as they like to say, but not because of her ethnicity. Rather, she's the first nominee of either party who did not have to secure a single delegate or a single vote in the primaries. She's historic in that it's highly unlikely she could have secured the nomination if there was any competition at all. In keeping with how she got the nomination, her acceptance speech was all sizzle, no steak. It will be billed as containing her, quote, vision for America. But it contained nothing like that. It wasn't so much different from the stump speech she's been reading before, which is what they did with Walls, after they knifed Biden in the back last month. Now, Kamala came from humble beginnings. She repeated them. Oakland sounds pretty rough nowadays, thanks to Democrats' mismanagement. But she was actually the child of two college professors, okay? Not manual laborers or blue-collar workers. College professors and communists. Raised on the mean streets of Berkeley and Montreal, Canada. She was not some underprivileged kid or hard luck story. Give us a break. The biographical part of her speech was spent reshaping standard information in applause lines, right? It's basic stuff. Everybody's like, oh! Her introductory video talked about her time on various Senate committees where she questioned witnesses. What it didn't contain was anything she actually did, okay? She was briefly in the Senate. She authored 0 bills, didn't write one that became law. The crowd didn't care. Don't care. Doesn't matter. She's historic. It sustained standing ovation, took the place of any resume. Existence as an accomplishment is something speakers do only when they lack actual accomplishment. This was why Harris and her speech ran flat, because she hasn't done anything. The night was more about vibes than anything else. The crowd cheered like it was their job, because it was. Their partisans bent on selling her candidacy. That's what they did, like good little cheerleaders. As for what Harris would do as president, your guess remains as good as mine. She has given us no vision to talk about, has no record. There was nothing new in her speech, nothing specific. It's difficult to fight a cloud. You can't see it coming. There's nothing really to it. When it came to policy, the speech consisted of multiple word salads, which we were calling platitudes last night. She's against this, in favor of that. We'll make everything better. Somehow, be a part being the key. How she will pay for this, no one knows. For example, she just promised to make everything more affordable. Neat. And she's going to fight inflation through price controls that almost certainly cannot be executed and wouldn't work anyways. Say what you will about Trump or the wall or Obama's healthcare plan. They were both actual proposals that you can actually do something with. Neither of their promises were so inane or inconsequential. The one thing we know about her is unrealized gains and increase in taxes, which she lied about last night and said that everybody's taxes are going to go down. For a big speech, this was one also devoid of any urgency or earnestness. Her price control discussions began and ended with her denunciation of, quote, corporate greed. She never even bothered to define what that means, and there were people from corporations paying millions of dollars for all of the suites in their arena. The only things for certain is she loves abortion and hates Trump. They love abortion, whom she falsely claimed wants to jail political opponents. No, that's them. There are J6ers in jail. Steve Bannon is in jail. Peter Navarro went to jail. They want Trump in jail. He's got sentencing scheduled next month. She said she grew up immersed in the ideals of the civil rights movement. Didn't explain that at all, because she was born in 1964, so had no memories before 1970. Now, it was just one empty line in a very empty speech. She said, "We are all in this together." Yeah, it's a great bumper sticker, but it's absolutely meaningless. And after 4 days of speeches, no one knows anything more about Harris. No one knows how she's going to fix anything. Her resume is mostly a blank page, exactly, and that's what they want. It's a blank slate, tabula rasa. They can just write whatever they want. They did the same shtick with Obama, and a lot of people bought it. A lot of people got duped. Her time in the Senate was mostly spent grandstanding. Her tenure as vice president might as well not even have happened. In fact, she didn't even hardly mention it. In fact, her participation with Biden was buried. No one even talked about it. She wants to come out and change direction. Now, the many fawning speakers, the positively glowing press coverage, and so many unquestioned assertion at the end of it all, the only thing you can say for sure about what Harris believes is that she should be the next president, and she'll say literally anything to get there. She will renounce all of her past positions if that's what it takes. Yeah, fracking and all sorts of stuff. What she do on that job is entirely a matter of speculation. It's whatever her masters say she needs to do. Her unwillingness to tell people either means she doesn't know or doesn't want us to know. Neither option is good. Some of that fawning coverage was from people like Rachel Maddow, okay? That was such a historic speech for her. She's got multiple thrills up her leg, as they often do. And here is what she said about this historic speech.
All right, you will remember where you were when you heard this speech tonight from the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
We'll remember. We
really introducing herself to the nation, speaking as much to Republicans and independents.
Introducing herself. She's been in the White House for 3.5 years.
As she was to the Democrats who were nominating her tonight, asking Americans to remember how great their country is and to fight for its values. You're going to remember where you were on this night.
Abortion?
This is an inflection point in history.
Genital mutilation? What are you talking about?
Our coverage continues after this. Stay with us here on MSNBC.
Plan B parties? No thanks. So, all right, you can just see. It's just cheerleading, basically, is all it is. No real substance, no real analysis. This was amazing. You'll remember where you are. And all of the nonsense that comes from them. Now, here is what Brit Hume had to say about this. We're witnessing an attempt at political alchemy. We all knew who she was. She was a laughingstock. This was a terrible candidate for the presidency in 2020. Has gotten worse, was a laughingstock. People calling her drunk. Her staff turnover. She had like, what, 3% retention as the vice president? Terrible. So here's Brit Hume.
This is obviously the night that more people than have ever seen her before will see her, one event. And what we're witnessing, Brett, is at least an attempt at political alchemy, because it wasn't very long ago when Kamala Harris was regarded, certainly in Washington, where she'd been a senator and then vice president, as something of a laughingstock. She was given to these sudden outbursts of sentences that were put down by a lot of people as word salad. And she said some truly inane things. There's no doubt about that. It is also the case that she composed, through statements she's made and things she supported, a pretty radical record. In fact, she described herself as a radical.
And bury.
That's all now to be set aside. We should forget all those things. This woman we thought thought was kind of a silly person, kind of a giggling lightweight, is presented now as Kamala, and this wonderful family woman who's never hesitated, as you heard, to reach across the aisle and all of the rest of it. And she will emerge here tonight. And the question is, will anybody buy it? I think a great many people will. All the people in this hall will. They've already decided. But it's a big task. Whether it will withstand scrutiny over time, don't know yet.
Here's some of the headlines. The reinvention of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris rushes to the center.
Fake.
Kamala Harris's nomination is a new day for Indian American representation. That's the Chicago Tribune. Rushes to the center? Is there any evidence that she's rushing to the center? We may hear it in this speech tonight.
Well, they're just trying to put camo hats on and talk about freedom, wave some flags around and try to show that she's not a liberal person because the country is sick of her actual policies. And the Democrats really don't care much about it. They're kind of enjoying it. Now, Tulsi Gabbard was also out, and this one dropped this morning. Here was some reaction to Harris playing both sides in the Israel-Hamas conflict, and we were making fun of her last night for doing that. Comes out with a real strong statement about Israel. We're like, whoa, there goes Ilhan Omar's country, and that's not going to be good. And then she dashed in a little bit of Palestine in there, and then we thought, whoa, okay, so she's going back the other way again. What are our friends in Israel going to say about that? And so it's a big problem all over the place. We've got very difficult balancing on this, which is the problem when you have to promise everything to everybody rather than focusing on America and what America should do in her own self-interest. Here is what Tulsi said in response to this.
And Iran is the problem. And when I last dealt with Iran, I signed off on a $6 billion cash deal to get our hostages out. Obviously, by the definition, should never have been taken to begin with. Not getting to victory. When she had a chance, Congresswoman, to actually show herself with an ally, she chose not to show up when Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed a joint session of Congress. What should I read into that? Should I listen to that speech, or should I look at her actions?
This exactly is what we have to do, what voters need to pay attention to between now and Election Day on November 5th, is don't listen to the words that she's throwing at us because they don't mean anything. We have to look at her record and her actions. She wants to be our president and commander-in-chief, and yet at no time has she demonstrated that she has any capability or that she is fit to serve in that position. In fact, she would be quite dangerous in that position, and I have no doubt she would try to weaponize and use our military in order to try to cover up and mask her weakness and insecurity.
All right, so I think that's right. I think that she has to play both sides on this. She can't pick a strong side. Trump has picked a strong side, all right? Trump is 100% in with Israel. He's all in on that, and they can't do that because they have too big a constituency in Minnesota, Michigan, and elsewhere that will stay home, as we've seen. So she's trying to have it both ways, and I'm not sure if it's going to work out for her. Joe Biden has had a difficult time trying to straddle that line as well. We'll see if she can figure it out. Now, here was some reaction from Jake Tapper, and he's pulling this back to the Barack Obama stuff. And we made this comment yesterday. In fact, at the end of her speech, she was really trying to do that. She was trying to do that even tonation, right? That intonation, the tonality kind of sounded like Obama at the end. And here was what Tapper said from CNN, just a short clip.
Daughter of Oakland accepting her party's nomination for the presidency of the United States of America. It was a speech that 4 weeks and 5 days ago she was not preparing to make. But as she said, she is no stranger to unlikely journeys. She shared with us her origin story as a prosecutor with her childhood friend, Wanda Kagan, who is here tonight.
Remember when Hillary had the balloons dropped on her and Hillary went, "Wow!" There's that wild gif of her that never has left the internet. All right, so that's what CNN was saying, and they're giving us the little rundown over there. Now, someone else who spoke last night was Elizabeth Warren, and Elizabeth Warren has been anti-crypto, I'd say anti really anything that makes economic sense for as long as she's been in the Senate, and she just, I think, is really struggling to get any real traction. She made a big push against crypto. That's not fair. She has done a lot of damage there. She has, I think, created a lot of regulatory difficulties and threats with Gensler and others. But the point is, here now, they're trying to create a different narrative, right? They're not responsible for all the pain that you feel at the grocery store, all the increased costs. That is due to corporate greed, and unrealized capital gains taxes are going to solve all that. And she's a big proponent of that, along with Bernie Sanders, because they're communists. They want confiscatory taxation so that the government can manage it. Even though she lives in, mansions and does very well for herself, the rest of us, we have too much. They need to take some of that away. So here is what she said on with CNBC, and this apparently got spicy. Let's listen.
This is what they said about the price gouging or the price control legislation. It was really pilloried from both sides of the aisle. Even Jason Furman, I don't know if you saw some of his comments. He said it's not good policy and it could actually do more harm than good. And I can paint you a picture of how that would work and how it's worked in the past, where we've tried to artificially hold prices down. Competition doesn't come in. People don't, like if beef is too high, people don't move the chicken. The competitors don't come in to undercut where the beef prices are. Nothing works when you try to artificially control prices. It's just a supply and demand issue. It's a flawed idea.
Yeah.
So did you have a question here?
Yes. Why would you propose a flawed idea when the real problem,
So let me
if you
ask
really
the
want to
question.
help the middle class, if you really sincerely want to help people having trouble at the grocery store, it's not price gouging that's the issue. And if you look at it seriously and really want to help them, then let's do something about it together. Fine.
So I understand if you want to do a lecture about this, but let's just start with where have you been for the last 30 years as 36 states have price gouging laws, and they have used them effectively. States like Texas and Florida, they've used price gouging laws. Price gouging laws are not price control. Price gouging laws are to say, sometimes markets go off the rails, and when they do, we need some ways to get them back on the rails.
So
we
the
need some
government can do it,
curbs on that behavior.
You guys are so good
So,
at that.
for example, we
Like you
watched in the
handled COVID so well.
pandemic
What?
how prices went up for a whole lot of reasons. They went up partly because we had supply chain kinks, we had problems because of the war in Ukraine that cut supplies of certain commodities.
Yeah, but that was in 2022.
And one of the things that happened as a result of that is there were corporations that said, whoa, now that we have inflation, now that prices are up overall, this is a great opportunity for us to raise prices, not just in passing along costs, but to go way, way, way above that.
Like what?
And how do we know that it was way, way above just passing along costs? Look at what happened to their profit margins. If they'd just been passing along costs, profit margins would have stayed about the same. But for some industries, some companies, profit margins shot up. And do you know where they shot up most often? It was in industries where there was a lot of concentration, a lot of market
power. Do you know why that happened?
Places where the market is not functioning competitively. So you end up with someone,
Do
remember
you know
we
why
all
we
talked
got
about
all of that consolidation, lunatic Elizabeth? Because of the wrecking of the businesses, okay? Do you know how many businesses went out of business because of COVID lockdowns?
egg prices. You end up with something like this giant egg producer, Cal-Maine. And Cal-Maine raises the price of eggs. Their profit margins increase by 718%. That's not just passing along costs.
Senator,
and that is a time
your example on Kraft is even worse.
You finished first. In any of the states around the country that already have price gouging laws.
Can I tell you why
play.
that those are fallacious and misleading at best? And the Kraft, your Kraft analogy is even. Why can't I tell you? Please let me tell you. Kraft, you say, was 440% profit increase. The example you used, the prior quarter from the year before, they had a charge of $1.3 billion, an accounting change which wiped out profits. Then they earned what they normally. Let me finish now. They earned.
You didn't let me finish. Look at the data. Come on. We have economic study now after economic study.
This is the way it always goes.
When there is more concentration,
40 million eggs were destroyed because of avian flu.
Concentration in an industry, we have seen much greater increases in.
Do you attribute the inflation?
Margins.
That's what you think we need to do to solve it?
They're not random. It is part of the problem. When you've got companies that are gouging consumers on prices, consumers need to know they've got somebody on their side.
Senator,
and
listen, we're trying to help. We're trying to actually.
In the 37 states that currently have price gouging laws.
Just quickly on that point, Senator Warren, can you just Kelly here? Can I just clarify how this would work?
This is the way you never lose an argument because no one can ever say anything back to you, Senator.
The state price gouging laws.
Yeah, she just filibusters and goes and talks and lectures you down, looks at you like you're just an idiot and get with the program, but doesn't want to face the economic realities, and then gives you some really bad examples of perturbations in the markets that then she says the government needs to gobble up control over the entire industry, the entire market, I guess. So I'm glad to see that there's some pushback on this. It'd be nice if they just called her a liar, which is what she is, and make it for good TV. But but not going to hold our breath on that. So we had some other reaction from yesterday. Donald Trump called in to Greg Gutfeld's show, and it was a real short conversation because Greg was in the middle of the opening, and here's what this sounded like.
Hey, Donald, you have my number. Call me.
So guess what he did?
I hope he's not mad at me.
Then he called.
Pay you a lot more money.
Hey, Mr. President, I'm live now. Say hello to my audience. So don't say anything that'll get you in trouble. All right.
I don't mind. You know, at this point, what difference does it make? We're doing well. We're leading in the polls.
All right, Mr. President.
15 points down.
Yeah.
And they said he has to get out, and they basically staged a coup.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's all see how it happens, but I think we're doing very well.
All right.
We're going to do very well.
All right, Mr. P, I got to go. I see ya. Bye-bye.
How about rushing the president off the phone in the middle of your live show? Oh my gosh. All right, so that's funny. Trump just gave him a call and said, what's going on? We also saw Trump posted this in reaction to Kamala Harris's speech and says, here are Biden-Harris's actual accomplishments, all right? Because Kamala posted something about Trump being unserious. Okay, talk about unserious. You've let unvetted illegals into the country to the tune of 15 million. Inflation, gas prices, consumer debt, multiple wars, Israel, Ukraine, released terrorists, Afghan was a disaster, 13 dead Americans, violent crime, tried to jail political rival and did jail political rivals, lied to the American public about Joe's decline, which everybody forgot about, declared war on American energy, record low test scores, education's terrible, and was the most unpopular president and vice president in history. And all that is looking to be true. We also see that in Arizona, RFK Jr. has officially, according to Jack Posobiec, withdrawn from the Arizona ballot. Ooh, this looks like it got filed the 22nd. Arizona Secretary of State filed with them. I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is hereby withdrawn as a candidate from president from the 2024 election. Ooh, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Says, I request that the state of Arizona and any county not print my name on the ballot for this office. Will not count or tabulate any votes. Will not include my name in the election canvass. Signed by Robert Kennedy and notary attached. So that's curious. Filed the day before the announcement comes out from RFK Jr. And he's going to be there with Trump today. Now, his VP was also out yesterday. Nicole Shanahan has been making the rounds, bunch of appearances from her. She hopped on with Adam Carolla, and this is an interesting clip where she's talking about Kamala being a puppet, which is obviously true.
Why is Kamala Harris sort of dangerous to you?
I think Kamala Harris is dangerous to me because she is the ultimate puppet for an organization that has, I believe, since President Obama, not actually run real people. They have selected amongst a very small group of individuals that they can control and dictate policy over. I don't think Kamala Harris is somebody who will sit here and tell you how she feels. I think that human capacity of hers has long
it's
gone.
not there. She doesn't have it.
I think that what she now...
She could not do this right here. She's not capable of this.
Now represents is corporatism. She represents a huge amount of cronyism.
Yeah, in the
and
name
I
of
do believe that
corruption.
she is using messaging. And this is the part that worries me the most, is that she uses messaging in a way to get populations of young, unknowing, innocent people to join her on these false virtue signal ambitions and actually take on policies that will eventually really hurt them in the future.
Yeah, it's going to hurt
My
themselves.
mother is from communist China.
It's a suicidal tendency.
I grew up
It's crazy.
hearing about what the famine was like in communist China.
Right. Well, she's going to do price controls at supermarkets, so we don't have to worry about that.
But that is exactly how you get to a famine. I mean, this is...
I know.
This is the basics. This is communism 101.
Yeah, it is. And there are apparently millions of people who are just thrilled with that because they're not, I think, familiar with how Kamala's policies would lead to that. And it's because they've been duped by the media and our terrible education system. Alina Abba was in the house reacting to what we heard from Kamala. Here was her take on this, being a mother.
This has been an utter disgrace as a woman, as somebody who is an American child of immigrants. I can say that I have heard absolutely zero about policy. I've heard some sort of serious serious form of Trump derangement syndrome come out of every speaker out there outside of the real American people. We're seeing actors and actresses from California, people that know nothing about politics. We just saw Eva Longoria. That's the best you got before Kamala Harris. And one thing I'm not hearing as a female is, what are you going to do for my children? What are you going to do as an American for the gas prices, the grocery prices? And how are you going to protect my children from the borders that you have opened? This is not about a new person to the party. This is somebody we know well. And frankly, I have heard very little, close to nothing about policy, and a whole lot of hatred for a place that's allegedly about joy. This has been an utter
it's been platitude after platitude from her. And in addition to that, it's been lie after lie. She came out and lied multiple times about Trump, about where he stands, and about his policies, intentionally and by design.